Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to see you for day 2. For those of you who didn't catch my welcome yesterday, my name is Erin McGuire, and I'm the Associate Director of the Horticulture Innovation Lab. I'm here just to quickly introduce you to the survey you all will be doing for the next 15 to 20 minutes. I will tell you it's best to do it on a computer. So if you do have a computer, it's best to get that out now. It's a study that is really important in understanding innovation networks, particularly in the region, understanding where the strengths are in the network, where there might be any weaknesses that we can help backfill, and then also how your network, your innovation network might be particularly successful and how we can capture lessons learned and provide those lessons learned to other networks across the globe. So this is the beginning survey that we're able to track the network structure that currently exists, and we'll be able to track it over time and track it against different innovations that are developed, scaled, and the successes that come out of us all working together. So it's a really important moment for us to capture, and I'm very grateful for you all taking the time to do it. It can be a little complicated, as I said, so I'm going to spend some time going over it with you. I introduced Hillary Proctor, which I'm sure all of you have gotten a chance to meet at this point. So maybe she can just wave her hand. Her and Dr. Mbuko, who I'm sure you've also gotten a chance to meet, they both agreed to help be my in-person help and people that you can ask questions to about the survey. The other thing we're going to do with this survey is those that complete it will use it to generate an email list so that we can follow up on these discussions, send out any RFPs that come about, and further any sort of collaborations. So it's a great way to immediately get sort of engaged going forward in what we'll do from this space. However, if you do not want to take the survey and want to be a part of that list, that is also very much possible. Ultimately, the survey is 100% volunteer, and it does not limit your engagement going forward. Okay, so I'm just going to go through the survey now relatively quickly. So I'm going to skip section 1 because section 1 is quite straightforward. It asks you about your organization, who you're representing, some information about yourself. It does ask you to identify where in the horticulture sector and where in the scaling process your organization works the most. And those can be kind of those are long lists. So just take your time and look through them, and you're able to check all that apply. So just whatever work you do, make sure that it's represented there. And there's space for if you do something that is not listed. Section 2 is what we call a name generator in network analysis, which is what we'll use to understand the network. And it will ask you to list out all of the organizations that you generally communicate with. We have tried to make it easier for you by uploading every single one of the organizations that have registered for this workshop. So you can just be an organization that you are familiar with and work with or communicate with. And then there's also space to write in organizations that you regularly work with that are not listed. So please take your time doing that. We will ask you about and rank 5 on who you think is most influential. And then finally, there's a question about funding and who funds who. So here you can see the list in the background here. You can check off whatever is appropriate. And at the very bottom, this is where you can write in organizations that haven't been mentioned yet. Here's your influence question. You pick 5. And then the funding question. We fund them, they fund us, we co-fund, no money's exchanged. And that question, it is what is currently happening. So I know things can be nebulous and change over time, But that question is, who are you funding now? Who's funding you now, et cetera. So that's section 2, and that deals with organization names and how you relate to one another. Section 3 is more about your opinion as an expert. So the first question is around if you've been involved in the development of innovation within the food and agriculture sector in the past 3 years. And then it will ask you, if you say yes, what innovations you have worked on, and you can list them out. You just type them out. And then the survey will ask you how far in the scaling process did those innovations get? The next question will ask you about types of organizations and scales of organization. So you can see here on the left-hand side in the matrix, the different types of organizations and then the different scales. We're going to ask you to think about in which scaling process, which stage in the scaling process, these organizations and these scales of organizations contribute the most. So while each of these organizations will contribute to many different parts of many different stages within the scaling process, we're asking you to think through what is the most, the one that they contribute to the most. And if you need definitions of the scaling stages, they're right above the question. The last complicated question is around connection. So where you think as an expert, the most important connections are in order to effectively scale. And this is all listed out for you in the survey. So in this matrix in the column, you will see the types of organizations, and across the row, you'll see types of organizations. You're going to put a little check wherever you think there's a critical connection that needs to be made in order to scale effectively. So if you think farmer-based organizations really need to do better at connecting with academia, this is the box you would check right here. If you think domestic NGOs have to do more connecting with domestic NGOs, then the check would be right here. If you think the private sector needs to connect more with bilateral funders like USAID, your check would be here. And we're asking you to choose 3. And then you'll do the same for the scale. So if you think local organizations, more local organizations need to be connected to effectively scale, you can click that box. Or if you think international organizations need to be more connected with local organizations, you would check this appropriate box that connects them. And we're asking you to do 2 there. And that's all for the complicated questions. After that, we have some pretty straightforward qualitative questions that we would love your insight on. So I will stop there. Thank you so much for taking this survey. I can't tell you how important we think it is. And thanks again for taking the time.